Now it's time to bring back in my co-host Jeff Small, as well as our next guest, a very good friend of both mine and Jeff's, as well as a good friend of the income generation, Matthew Johnson, president of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, a retirement income store located in Iowa. Matthew is the host of the radio show, The Capitalized Life and Retirement Show, and it airs on Saturday on KGLO AM 1300. You can also follow Matthew on his YouTube channel, The Capitalized Life. Matthew, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
You tired of the cold weather up there in Iowa? Or I should say up there, because we're down here in Florida.
Absolutely, yes.
Ready for summertime. So speaking of summer, a lot of us think that with the stock market, we could be going into kind of sort of a winter time. What are some of the biggest concerns that you hear your clients talking about, questions they're asking you about their concerns about a Biden administration?
Well, I would say maybe not going into a winter time. We're already in the middle of winter, I would say, and we're hopefully looking to emerge out the other side of winter and looking forward to spring. However, there's never been an election where 100% of the people and 100% of the nation was united and absolutely all gung-ho for the guy that was elected. In this case, though, there's always those uncertainties. We don't know how policy is going to change, laws are going to change. We don't know what kind of new ideology might be implemented. So there is a degree of uncertainty that's there right now.
So MJ, investors on the right side of the political spectrum are more nervous than ever before about economics, the markets, the country's future progression financially. What are you telling your customers today to calm their nerves and to settle them down? Because a lot of them are very nervous.
Well, they are. I would totally agree with that. One of the things that I think we have to understand, and it just plain and simple, the stock market is very unpredictable. It's always been unpredictable. It always will be. It's a ride that you pay for, and you don't know where it's going to end up. You don't know if it's going to be a fun ride or a scary ride, right? You don't even know if you're going to survive the ride. And so when it comes to investing, I think that there's a lot to be said about taking and really paying attention to where you are and what your goals are, and making certain that you're always implementing some control into your portfolio. And what I mean by control is if you can start to shift maybe from those large cap stocks into value stocks, if you can start to implement a little bit of fixed income where now you've got more contractual measures within your portfolio so that you're getting paid regardless of, really what's going on outside of default. Those things help to kind of calm the nerves of people and give them a little bit more of a peace of mind, I think, which is really important in today's society.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, on the fixed income side, it's contractual. You're really not playing the stock market game. And if you want to be in the market, at least if you go to value stocks and, the increase of the corporate tax rate really does affect the stock market negatively, at least you're getting paid while you're waiting for the market to come back. So some very great points. When we come back, I want to ask you more about the markets and what you see happening in 2021. So you're going to want to stay with us to hear more about what Matthew Johnson has to say for 2021. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Income Generation. I'm David Scranton. It's great to be here because I'm with Jeff Small and Matthew Johnson. Gentlemen, thanks so much for sticking around.
So MJ, it looks like the Democrats want to be super dovish and expand the stimulus to no ends to support American businesses, which can be a good thing. But the Republicans are going to be more hawkish. Where do your clients stand today? Do they need stimulus? How is Corona impacting them? How is it impacting the heart of the country there in the Corn Belt?
Well, the reality is that you're absolutely correct. There's so many of my clients that are really super concerned with all the printing of money. It's kind of like, I guess we've got a checkbook, so there must be money in the bank. President Biden just came out with another $1.9 trillion stimulus program. So on one hand, that kind of helps to ease the mind of certain investors and says, well, the government's always going to keep us afloat. But on the flip side of the coin, we still have plenty of conservatives that are looking at this and saying, if this was our own money, our own household, we'd be in jail by now. So I think one of the biggest factors is going to be inflation. And remember, inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. And inflation takes a while. So I think many of my clients who are that baby boomer generation are saying, this is going to start affecting us the worst when we're the most vulnerable, when we're later on in our retirement years. And then on the flip side of that coin is going to be the taxation. Is there the possibility the taxes are going to go up for us? And remember that the taxes increasing always stymie the economy in some respect, because if you're going to be taking money from your IRAs and you're going to be taxed at a higher level, now you're going to be more just really more reluctant to take out more money than you really need to, because you don't want to be paying those taxes.
You are exactly right, MJ. Janet Yellen just said recently, hey, we need to borrow as much as possible while rates are low, and we'll worry about paying that later. That's kind of a ridiculous attitude, don't you think?
It really is. It's quite irresponsible, I think, in many respects, because it's just indebting future generations. And there's always going to be a consequence to some extent. It can't go on forever. Somebody's going to have to pay the piper.
But Matthew, do you really think there's going to be inflation as traditional economists think of it? Because it seems to me like people really aren't out there spending the money just because it's free-flowing, that it's likely we'll continue with more of this asset inflation trend that we've really seen since the financial crisis, where real estate prices go up, stock prices go up, not necessarily the prices of goods and services, and that we very well could be the next Japan when it comes to essentially fighting deflation instead of inflation. So I know your clients think that, but what do you think about that between traditional inflation versus asset inflation like we've had recently?
Well, Dave, that's a pretty good question. I would say there's a lot to that. But the first thing is you're absolutely correct. Assets have gone up tremendously because in all honesty, if you've got a lot of money that you've saved up for retirement and you're getting absolutely nothing at the local bank and, the CDs and that sort of thing, you're going to have to do something with your money. And so lower interest rates for an extended period of time do force people to take on more risk. And that obviously is more money flowing into the stock market. But isn't it also true that that gives us kind of a false view of what's really happening in the market? There's a lot of disconnect between what the stock price is selling for versus what it's actually worth. But, on the flip side of that coin, I would say that costs are going up. I don't know about you, but, when I'm spending nearly $2,200 every single month for health insurance for my family, when I see long-term care going to $70,000, $80,000.
And you're a young guy too. So, imagine members of the income generation, how much they're paying for medical insurance, right?
Exactly. So there is real goods and services that we're using every single day that are continuing to go up. Now, if the government will stay out of the way, I think that we can continue to see the momentum of technologies being built that are going to be able to help, create more competition, which is going to drive costs down. Mm-hmm. But in the long-term side effect of all of this, I think that there's going to be a real tangible effect to baby boomers and to those of us that are trying to save for retirement.
Now, Matthew, I know at your core you're an optimistic person, although I know you're personally probably not ecstatic about President Biden being in office. But in the 30 seconds or so we have left, what are the most optimistic things that you tell your clients to focus on?
Well, there's always been bad times. There's always been challenges, but somehow we are a very resourceful country, right? We continually to look towards the future and looking towards developing technologies and streamlining different ways of doing things that always end up bettering society in some ways. And really, in all honesty, I think we're in this to hope that we're going to see good things come from this administration, that they won't get too much in the way of the development of that technology and the development of being able to recover from this COVID-19 and really focus on growing businesses.
Matthew, I love the optimism. Thanks so much for joining us today. And you stay with us, because coming up after the break, we're going to recap today's show and share some final thoughts that you need to know if you want to secure your retirement. I'm David Scranton on The Income Generation, and we'll be right back.